Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of The Fast Break. On one half of the co-host, Davidson Crooks. D-Lock, how you doing this evening?
How you doing, man? Everything is very solid. Got that extra day off, so I'm real good, man.
Man, that's good to hear, man. I'm feeling good today. Had an off day today on a Sunday, which is very rare. So I got a lot of things done. And we up here, this evening we'll discuss the last episodes of The Last Dance. And then we want to discuss, ladies and gentlemen, that the league is trying to come back, but don't know how to come back, if that makes sense. So we're gonna dive into all that. First, we're doing send out a special prayer out to Patrick Ewing. He was recently diagnosed with the coronavirus. For those that know, Patrick Ewing is currently the head coach of his alma mater, Georgetown. So he is self-isolated in his hospital room. And no further updates is known about his condition, but he is battling the disease. So we do want to send those well wishes out to Patrick Ewing and family.
Yeah, make sure you guys stay safe too. It is tough hearing that kind of news, and if people don't think that they can contract or they can get it, this is more proof that anybody can get corona. So make sure you have your mask on, gloves, wash your hands 24/7, and prepare for anything.
Yeah, and with Patrick, he had a very long career with the Knicks, very stout college career with Georgetown, and D-Lock, he came, he's been an assistant with the NBA for years, never really had too many interviews, and now, when the Georgetown job opened up, he's there as alma mater trying to turn that around, and now, besides trying to turn Georgetown what it was back in the day, he's finding this battle right here. So
yeah, which is tough. That's very tough.
And and Patrick Ewing is no spring chicken too. So that's another thing to think about, ladies and gentlemen. But tonight, two big subjects. We're going to start off with the last episodes of The Last Dance. D-Lock, what did you think about the last two episodes last Sunday when they aired and premiered? What did you think about them?
The thing that did stick out to me the most is the fact that Dennis Rodman did do his wrestling. That to lead practice to, that just was something that, when I was younger, I kind of remember a little bit of it. I actually thought Karl Malone did it as well.
He did.
But I didn't, well, obviously at the time I didn't know, but obviously it was around the time where they had, games going on and stuff like that. But obviously as a child, you didn't think too much of that. You just seen a star at, WCW, and this was like, wow, like, this person is wrestling and playing basketball. So that was something that definitely stuck out to me. The fact that they went over the reason for the flu game, that was like super dope to me. That was like a motivating thing, big time. Just because the fact is, you see somebody, so sick at that time, to go out there and perform as he did, that was huge. So I thought that was real cool, man. Like, I really thought, like, dang, like, he had all this energy and all this stuff happened like the night before. Like, not many people could do that. So I thought that was, epic, big time epic. But the actual get the full story behind it was really cool as well. So that's why I took it, as such. So, but yeah, man, I think those two episodes did explain a lot, especially the battle that they had with the Pacers. And then the whole steal from Karl Malone. Um, that was about maybe 30 to 45 seconds. Everything he did in that frame, that was something that stuck out to me big time. So I thought that was cool, man. Then I don't know if I'm pretty sure you did see Karl Malone's interview.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So to me, it sounded like he did respect Jordan, but at the same time, people kind of got bothered about what he said and how he said it. But all he was saying was the fact that he was a great player as well. So they did respect Jordan, but he knew that a lot of them losing he played a part on that. He's not going to say, well, Jordan was the reason for this, but all on him. He just, said, hey, even though he made that play, we played a part in that. So all in all, those episodes were like a great way to end things to me. The fact that Jordan said he was kind of pissed about not being able to come back does make sense, just because of the fact that they could have won, like he said, they could have won 7. But you know how business is business. That's just how it is. A lot of people don't understand that when we look at, well, why was the reason for it? Are you serious? Can this really happen? Yeah, things like that really happen. So it's that's real life, especially when it comes to the business side of sports. We just usually see people on the field, we see them on the court, we see them on the track, but we don't see what happens behind closed doors when they have to sit in that office or be on the phone with this brand or this team. So it sucks the way that it ended, but all in all, it was a really good 2 episodes to me.
And you touched on Dennis Rodman in the WCW stuff, and back in that time, around that 98 time period when wrestling really got back to that mainstream, everybody trying to I guess latch on to it, popularize it, and all that stuff. And as a child, when I saw Dennis Rodman on TV back in those days, it was like, wow. You think, dang, don't they got like a basketball game and stuff like that? When you're younger, you think about things like that. But of course, as we got older and then you kind of find out about things, it was like, oh, you just skipped out like that.
Yeah.
And the thing that kind of surprised me about that, though, granted, yeah, he skipped out and game stuff and stuff like that. It shows like a couple things to me. How the amount of the distractions and all that with this Bulls team, they can curb anything to keep winning as a main goal.
Yeah.
Wherever the issues they have, wherever beef they have with each other, worry about contracts, stuff like this. Jordan dry snitching on them. All this stuff, going out, WCW to walk the ring with Hollywood Hogan. All this stuff, but they still won.
Yeah. Either way.
I mean, either way, I was listening to Bomani Jones, and they were doing like a review of the Jordan rules by Sam Smith, who now writes for the Chicago Bulls, and he had somebody, I forgot who he had, but they talked about he talked about how this person, I forgot the person's name, but apologize, but this person used to follow bad teams and stuff like that, and then when he read this book, this team, this Bulls team has same issues as the bad teams, but they won though.
Yeah.
And and he's kind of perplexed, was like, well, dang, if these bad teams, I mean, if this good team right here, as good and great as they are, can win with all these distractions, why can't these bad teams can do the same? And you got to give that to Michael Jordan.
He played a huge part. I mean, with everything going on, different things, the distraction. I mean, they're joking with the general manager, Jerry Krause. They're making fun of him, whatever, a lot of different things. Scottie Pippen situation. They're still finding ways to win. So, and let's not forget, even with what was it, the year that, think about the time that he wasn't there. When he wasn't there, they turned into a different team.
Yeah.
So that shows, how this team really was kind of put together and who they really needed for them to move forward. Now, it's proof that they were pretty solid, but it's just, Scottie was a guy, but we can see that Scottie was a totally different guy than Jordan, mentally and everything, because Jordan found ways to get things done. Didn't care how long it took. He knew that they had one goal in mind, and this is how it's going to get done. So for somebody to have that mindset, they're going to change everything about your franchise. I think we talked about it last week, about the whole Tracy McGrady thing. I think that Jordan do take them far, but I just think that, of course, having Scottie Pippen made a bigger difference. But the mentality that Jordan had just was on a totally different level. That's why, the comparing him and Brady in the same category can be done, because, that player, they just changed everything about a team. And he did that. So he was the, sole main, well, I'm not going to say sole reason, but the main reason why they were able to, go as far as they did, win those rings. And he stuck to his word as well. He said, Phil Jackson's not coaching me, I won't be here. So for him to retire, that wasn't a surprise to a lot of people, especially if they knew the scenario with Phil Jackson.
Well, you kind of brought up about Jordan wanting to go for 7 and stuff like that. Also in that time frame, you had the lockout that happened. The lockout came, and you don't know if you have a season. You're going to have a season, and then you end up having a season when David Stern played chicken with the players and won. And by that time, when the season got up and running by February, you don't have a lot of time for free agency to do things.
Yeah.
You don't know if you were going to have a training camp and stuff like that. So that's why you see guys like Sean Kemp, for example, coming bigger than what he was when he played for Cleveland. It's like, I'm going to ask you this question. If the lockout didn't happen, would you think the band we got back together for one more run to go for that lucky 7? Or, are you convinced like Jerry Krause is like, I want to start over, period. Done. I want to start over.
I think the fact that they had that agreement before the year,
mm-hmm.
I think that stuck with Phil Jackson, in my opinion. He knew that he wasn't going to get the respect that he deserved. He felt like that was a shot in the face, especially if you tell somebody that they go 18-0, or I'm sorry, 82-0, and they're still not going to be, worth bringing back earlier in the season. You say that, it's definitely hard to have everything kind of move forward after that conversation. So I think even with the lockout, even if they didn't have a lockout, I just think that Phil Jackson was the person that kind of led everything, right? I mean, he's the reason why Jordan came back. So he's the reason why they big reason why they were successful. So even if they didn't have a lockout, I don't know if Phil Jackson says, "Hey, you know what? Yeah, let's make another run." But Jordan had even said it, right? Like, okay, dude, if you bring Phil back, and then you tell Phil he's gonna come back. Jordan's gonna come back. Jordan is they're gonna re-sign Dennis, keep Scotty and Steve Kerr, which is basically the group. So we know that could have happened, but I don't know if they stick to having that happen just because of how things were approached in the beginning of the season, especially how he approached Phil Jackson. I just don't know if Phil Jackson would be able to get over that. Even in the interview, I think they asked Jerry Krause after the season about, is it too early to say if somebody's going to come back? And he was like, I'm going to celebrate this tonight and then worry about tomorrow. So that's the kind of conversation that you ask players that's going to retire, that are considering it. And they asked him, and his response, it just gave off the vibe that he, wasn't going to bring him back. So I think that conversation that he had in the beginning of the season just left a sour taste in everybody's mouth. And the person that made a huge impact, obviously, was Phil Jackson. And it probably left a bigger sour taste in his mouth than everybody else. So I think that, like I said, even if they didn't have it, I don't think Phil Jackson would be back coaching Chicago. That just was my mindset on it. And then on top of that, I think it motivated him to win in LA.
Yeah, it's like, well, dang, man. Phil Parker feeling like, dang, man. I think they could have had a good chance to win 7. Now, I think the only obstacle, if they reach the finals, would be probably those Knicks teams. Those Knicks teams in the late 90s, they may give him a challenge. When Marcus Camby, they traded for Latrell Sprewell. Alec Houston, when he was nice and healthy, they maybe gave them a challenge. But if you got past them, or the Miami team, will you think they will beat the Spurs?
Yeah, I mean I was just checking that in. I don't know. I mean, I think they still make a huge run at them. I mean, the Spurs that's when the Spurs actually start making their run.
Yep.
Around that time. But it's just, do we really see this Bulls team, losing to anybody? I mean, especially, come on now, we're talking about 6 rings, right? We're not talking about 1, we're not talking about 2, we're not talking about 3. Mm-hmm. So they're in a scenario where this group that they have is only going to get better because they're probably going to trade or draft for somebody. Remember now, teams make these kind of runs. What happens is more players try to go to them, right?
Correct.
I mean, now you got all these other free agents want to come in and try to, hey, Jordan is a great player. We want to play with him, see what we can do. So maybe a few key pieces end up in Chicago and not in all these other places. So that's why it's kind of like the whole, we may be looking at a similar Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers scenario, to where it's okay, they have Jordan, but now they're building somebody else. They're going to draft somebody, or somebody's going to be in Chicago to take his place once he's done. So, to me, I think the Spurs, it's hard to pick against Jordan, man. The Bulls, man. It's tough because they beat the Jazz in 6.
Yeah.
We're not talking about scrubs now. We're talking about Karl Malone. So John Stockton, that was a pretty well put together team. So, and then on top of that, do we really see Phil Jackson going to LA at some point this early? So, I think we talked about it last week, and one of my friends was saying, well, maybe they do win 7, but you still had the Lakers coming and the Spurs. I'm like, well, the Lakers didn't really get together until Phil Jackson got there.
Yeah.
So, do we still see that effect to come? Right. So I think that they do make a huge run. I don't know if they go 8, 9, 10 now, but or another 2 or 3 in a row. But I do see them making a huge run that following year, and kind of could mess up, what the Spurs had put together, and kind of messing up the Lakers dynasty in that range. I mean, the Lakers would have, they would have found a way to get things in order, but does Shaq go to LA if Phil Jackson isn't there?
I think Shaq was still staying in LA regardless. I think, he made a move, even, Phil was still coaching Chicago back in 96. So I don't think, Shaq was going to leave LA regardless. It could be enticing that Phil may see the writing on the wall and may go out to LA regardless and go coach Shaq and Kobe. Because, Jordan, Scotty, on the north side of 33 years old, now I can go out west, and more comfortable wherever and coach these young guys still in their 20s, and do great things. But you brought to the point, like, will guys be willing to go to Chicago to play with those guys if they try to go make another run? You gotta think about this. Scotty was a free agent and he was looking to get his money. So, would you think that works salary wise? Like, Scotty got his money. Who else could they brought in around that time? Who do you think?
Yeah. I think it's a few people that they could have made a run at. First of all, Scotty would have been the first person that was on the list to bring back. So they would have had him. I think they would have had him locked up now. I'm not gonna say like they would have him long term, like long term deal. I don't think so. But I do think that, for one, he'd have been one of the people that they would have had locked up early. I think that's when Mike D'Antoni got hired around that year too, right? 98. Yeah, he got hired. Yeah, because I think he coached the Nuggets that year.
Yeah, correct. It didn't last long there.
Yeah, no, it didn't. But it's a couple. With that team, you're looking at some people to fill the roster a little bit. So now you're kind of like, okay, well, we have our base piece, and then we're gonna add on some pieces for Jordan, for the other, rest of these guys to kind of get some rest and recover. George Lynch was pretty solid. Around the time I think he started playing with the 76ers that year.
Mm-hmm.
He was pretty good, so you probably can put him in the fold with them. Again, it's kind of hard to see who would like fit into the system that they had. But obviously, you could have had him. You could have obviously would have brought back Dennis Rodman. But now with this team, I think Greg Anthony was around that time too. So you could have had some people that will fill that roster out just for not necessarily, kind of a little bit of rotation purposes. We know, what team or who is your base of your team. Now all these other pieces, they're here, but you're not expecting for Greg Anthony or some of these other guys that may possibly come in to play a huge role. they may come in just to, like I said, Jordan gets a little tired. And now you said these guys are getting older. They weren't doing any, I can't even think about what it is, off like resting some games. They weren't doing that. But this is the time that you could have had a little rest for Jordan getting ready for the postseason. Maybe we see that earlier because now you already know what you had with Scotty and Jordan with your group. You've seen them win 6 championships. So now the season of breaking the NBA record of the most wins a season is not important. You've already done that.
Yep.
Now it's about winning championships. So now do we see Phil Jackson? Do we see Jordan and them kind of take it easy on some of these games? Do they, hey, we're playing the Wizards or the Bullets around that time? Like, this is a game that's important, but not really. So you get to, the goal this whole time is to get to the playoffs with the number 1 seed, top 2 or 3 seeds, and now that's when we're going to go in. So there's a couple, pieces that could have signed in. And then you got the older players that obviously would have joined Chicago. Every league has those players that are a little older that didn't have a ring. Now they're joining the team that has a chance to win a ring. So we could have seen that as well.
And, kind of, looking back at the 99 draft and, Chicago took, Elton Brand number 1 around that time. That's, they really, really sucked. And that's when you kind of saw that turn for that team. Let me pull up the 98 draft. Let's see.
About the year before, right?
Yeah. Because if they kind of hit on the right, let's see. Come on. There we go. That's that Michael Olvekani draft. Ooh.
Oh, yeah. You see the names?
Yeah.
I mean, you got a couple people in there with Jason Williams.
Yeah.
Bibby, Larry Hughes, VC, Paul Pierce. But Tyronn Lue was in that draft, too. I didn't know that. So some of these guys, you see that they could have made a bigger difference. But
just kind of look at this. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Just kind of look at this draft. They took Corey Benjamin out of Oregon State. Now, 1 pick later, you had Nazir Muhammad that went after him. So, I don't know, maybe Nazir been like the better player as a big man down the road.
Yeah.
If they kept that team together. And then you go down the list in the second round, guys like, Rashad Lewis out of high school, Ruben Patterson, Katino Mobley, he's a second round pick. Rayford Alston, trying to think who else. That's really about it if you go through the second round and whatnot. Greg Butner, he hanged around in the league for a little while. That's really about it. So, if Chicago drafted somebody else different between, say, Corey Benjamin, you have you have a decent young piece out of the guys I named, but they're not putting you over the hump right now.
That next draft, that 99 draft, I think is the one that would have made the bigger difference for them if they would have kept. You look at the names in that draft. You got Elton Brand, Steve Francis in there. I remember Wally Zerbiak. He was pretty solid for a while. Obviously, we know Richard Hamilton. So you have some pieces in here that you can build off of. I remember. I don't know if you remember Andre Kirilenko. That called him AK-47 for the Jazz.
Yep.
He was pretty solid for a while as well. So you had pieces to where you could have branched off and kind of built around, but it's just it gets to the point that it's the same thing that we heard about with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, but instead this is Jerry Krause, and Michael Jordan. These two are trying to you take one away, and they say now who wins the championship first that's the race right now. So that's what it seemed like it kind of was, but obviously it wasn't as deep because Jordan retired. He's not competing with me. He's just like, I'm done. So now Jerry Krause has a lot longer chance as well to say, okay, well, look, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this team together straight from scratch, and we're going to be compete for a championship quick without Jordan. What have they done since?
Nothing really.
Yeah. So right now, even with Jordan not playing, Jordan is the winner in that conversation. I mean, it's Jordan, Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson definitely, he damn sure is the winner in that conversation between him and Jerry Krause. So at this point, it seemed like, there always a scenario where it's like, okay, yeah, people are going in Jerry Krause in front office ear saying you guys could not have done this without Michael. So now that Michael's gone, or even after you win the championship, their mindset is, okay, well, we built this from scratch. We can do it without him. And that's what that's what they wanted to prove. And they could. But see, the way I see it, and this is a quote that goes with any sport in any aspect. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm a general manager in that scenario, whatever Jordan wants, he gets. Because I've won 6 rings with you. Why do I need to change that? I mean, this kind of goes off topic, but I play Madden a lot, right? I play online, I play a bunch of my friends a lot. I have about, I say at the most, maybe 15 plays that I run on offense. And it cannot stop it. Somebody told me that I'm like one of the most boring players they've ever played. Oh, you're the most boring player ever. One of the most boring players I've ever played because you do the same plays over and over. You know what I say? I say, well, can you stop it? No. Well, I may be boring, but I'm winning. So it's the same mindset that a lot of these front offices should have, and Jerry Krause should have had at the time. Because, dude, they have Jordan for 1 more year, 2 years. We could be talking about a totally different scenario. We could be talking about 9 rings. And then we could be talking about the Bulls being an expanded dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
They could have had a player right before Derrick Rose and still be competing for a championship, in between Derrick Rose and the Jordan era. But remember, there was a time where Chicago just kind of disappeared.
Oh, yeah.
So it's, I understand that it is a thing that the front office wants to prove, like, hey, yeah, we can do this. But sometimes, come on, man, 6 rings? Dude, like, there's no way I'm getting rid of anybody that's helping me get 6 rings unless they retire. So.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And, but what we saw, kind of built up to these last 2 episodes that, the backhanding comments from Jordan on Krause, the snide remarks, the constant, going at Krause and saying like, you ain't crap without me. And, and just, I think human reaction is like, after a while, after years of built up for Jerry Krause, and, what we see in this documentary, we saw that, Jordan could be a real a-hole to people,
Mm-hmm.
just to be an a-hole. And for Krause, I think that he was one of his favorite punching bags. And for me, my eyes, in the conclusion episode and whatnot, and the restart and all that stuff, sure, Krause could like brought the band back together and went for 7 championships. But, I think this is his chance, to break away from everything, to get away from Michael, because God knows, what what kind of mind games that done to him. you know, for his mental health. And, you know, it's kind of like a, you know, pissing contest to a degree.
Yeah.
You know, he had a pissing contest with Phil, won that. Had a pissing contest with Michael, and somewhat won that. You know, if the lockout didn't happen, I think things may come back and form. But Krause got his wish. The lockout happened. You know, everybody kind of went on their separate ways. Scotty got his big money deal to Houston. Rodman wasn't brought back. Michael retired. Phil was gone. You know, guys like Steve Kerr was gone as well.
Got traded.
And Krause got his wish. It's like, you know, forget this. I want to do my own thing. I want to show them. And
yeah, I mean, that's what he had planned. It's just, I don't know. I mean, I know for me, a lot of times I think about the fact that winning is always, the end result is winning solves a lot. So I'm thinking in the back of my mind, well, this can be a lot of things that they dealt with could be solved. It can be a lot of questions. People can say, okay, well, did Michael treat this person like trash and blah, blah, blah. But if you continue winning, it's going to cover that up a lot. It's hard to, you know, going about that. Like the fact that Jordan was just so disrespectful probably, you know, was a nail in the coffin. But it just, you know, at the time, I'm sure how Jerry Krause felt about Phil Jackson ignited how Jordan felt, how Scotty felt. So, and that wasn't something that just came out of nowhere. I mean, it was clear. I'm pretty sure Jordan let them know. Well, I'm sorry, not Jordan, but Phil let them know, hey, you know, this is how things are being treated as such, and they went about it like that. So, but you know, it's a lot of franchises go through that scenario where they can't find a way to get out of losing. They would do anything to win just one.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that they have more than one, you know, back to back twice, like it starts to become a habit. It starts to become like second nature. So when it was like that, you know, for them, I guess it kind of, you know, it got kind of bothering, you know, especially the crowd. Like, well, hey, you know what? Let me try to start this over and do this. I guess it was time to, you know, cut losses. It just, to me, I always, you know, winning the championship has to feel like one of the most amazing things ever, especially for your city. So to be able to do that multiple times, like look at those celebrations and those parades they were having.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how can you get tired of that? But, you know, at some point, it had to end.
Yeah, and, you know, things don't last forever. I mean, not just in sports, but in life in general. You know, things don't last forever. And, you know, what this documentary shows is like, after all the twists and turns and to continue winning, things don't last forever. And, you know, for them, you know, they went out on a high note. They went out on a high note and they all went out their separate ways. So a lot of teams can't really say that. You know,
Yeah.
with the Lakers teams in the 80s and, you know, Magic, you know, abruptly retired with this HIV diagnosis, they had a chance to go out on top. You know,
Yeah.
Larry Bird, when he retired, back was hurting and he retired. You know, the early 2000 Lakers, after a while, Kobe and Shaq just couldn't stand each other no more. Plus Kobe's legal stuff going on in Colorado, that ended prematurely. So I mean, and then, like, you know, Nothing lasts forever. And you just got to enjoy the things that are going on when you can.
Yeah, because it's going to end quick, or it could anyway.
And, this documentary showed that lasting impact that Jordan and the Bulls had upon us as basketball fans, students of the game, that, it brought that love for us in the game that I think nobody in sports can really, really, really do.
Nah, I mean, it's like, for me, I know that definitely had me looking at a lot more Jordan games, not just playoff games, just regular games, like in season, regular season games. Like, I wanted to see how he played and how, the chemistry that this team had. That's how big of a difference that he made.
Before we move on to our other subject, I remember that I saw a story on Twitter that Isaiah Ryder and Kevin Garnett told when Garnett was a rookie in the league. And Isaiah Ryder, as he tells the story, he was having a very solid game against the Bulls. And, Kevin Garnett being, Kevin Garnett, even as a rookie, we started talking trash to Michael. And Isaiah Ryder had to go to Michael and say, hey, Mike, he young buck, he don't understand. And Kevin kept on antagonizing Michael and stuff like that. And Isaiah is, saying that story that Michael looked Isaiah up and down. He looked at Kevin Garnett up and down. And in Kevin Garnett's words, you ever felt like you just be on defense the whole time when you're playing basketball? That's how they felt like. They said like Jordan went off for like 17 straight. And next thing you know, they're losing by double digits, and him and Isaiah was sitting on the bench. Jordan turned to them on the bench and said, "You had enough there, young blood?" And
poking at that man.
And Garnett knew, like, I'll never talk trash to Michael Jordan again.
Poking at the bear. Hey. But that's the kind of respect that he earned. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like he demanded that. Now, he took advantage of it.
Oh, yeah.
And, started treating people like, whatever. But he demanded that. Like, big time.
And, I think that's contributed like 50% of his game. That mind control, that mental preparation. If he got you beat at that 50%, then good luck going against the other 50% on the court.
Yeah, that's a totally different animal.
Totally different animals right there.
He gets you messed up about one. If he knows that you're not there mentally, he's going to take advantage of it. And a lot of players knew that over time, but it's just that he would get in your head. So he made that kind of impact. And like I said, I always knew some people couldn't, like I said, as an athlete, if they get you messed up in the head, if you can't go into competition with the right mindset, you're already screwed. So imagine, you already kind of messed up in the head a little bit, and then you got to go face Jordan out of all people. Like, it's a long game ahead. Big time.
And, my lasting impact of this documentary, in the time we needed it, Jordan at one point, ruled the world. He ruled it. He had the world in the palm of his hand. The NFL, yes, it was popular, but I don't think it had that pull like it does now.
Yeah.
And they got better marketing their stars in the next century, but one thing you always can say about the NBA, they know how to market their stars. And lucky for them, they had already one of the greatest athletes all time to market and to showcase and taking them to the next, horizon.
Yeah. You got with the one person that make a difference. It kind of takes over everything. I mean, again, the dude has another pair of shoes coming out June 6th.
Yeah.
So to me, he's that popular. He's in fact still very popular. So popular that he has a meme that is very popular. So
Yeah.
he's up there. There's not many people, well, very, very few in fact, that can make that huge impact that he has and he will continue to do.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you. That lasting impact, what Ferry with us and this documentary show that, especially, with 10 episodes, deep, it definitely showed that. But, speaking of lasting impact, D-Lock, the NBA, been in a hiatus since mid-March. They trying to figure out ways to get up and rolling again. We see different things, avenues they're trying to do. Let me pose this question to you. What do you think the NBA, how would you take their approach to bring back the NBA back into the fold and get things done through the season?
Okay, what this is, May? Playoffs start, if we had to take a guess, playoffs start maybe June, right? Like it usually starts in June? Or no, it starts in May.
Well, it starts in April.
April. Okay, so we're far behind. So for me, I probably, it's May right now, it's about to be June. Next season doesn't start till like October. You got the NFL coming around, maybe August. I probably would start playoffs. Now, what I would do with playoffs, I probably wouldn't have a full regular playoff. Like first round, best out of 3. Second round, best out of 3. And take it like that, because right now you're looking at, and this is if they come to an agreement that the NFL should come back. Now, the thing about that, the teams that they should be asking about if they should come back, honestly, is the teams that are championship contention. There's no really reason why they should be asking teams that are like the Knicks or the Warriors. I mean, what are they going to play the last few games and sit and they're going to play the last few games and get ready for the draft? So, I mean, I guess you could say these last few games will make a huge part in where they draft, but we're to the point now where it's about playoffs, so in championship. So right now, I probably would stick to having the playoffs, but it just would be very tough to have a regular season. It just, I wouldn't be able to do it just because of how long it's going to take. Then obviously how many people, like, you're going to lose so many people trying to have the playoffs, like in a regular season, especially with football coming around. Like, now you're competing with a different sport at this time. And then on top of that, regardless of the other sport, you still have a regular season starting up in October once again. So it would be tough for me to start a regular season and finish it out. At least now, anyway.
It goes back to what we discussed last week. like I said, I think you should just call the season as it is because I'm looking at the standings right now. You know, Orlando in the East, and Orlando is ahead of Washington 5 games. Why, I mean, if you're Washington, if you're Orlando, why don't I risk games if I can go ahead and play in the playoffs?
Yep.
If I'm, Chicago and my young guys has been in and out of the lineup with injuries and stuff like that, why do I want to just risk those guys and get them back to health, get them back in training and stuff like that, but get those guys back to health and just play back and play better for next year? Same thing for Atlanta. Cleveland.
Capella just got over there.
And Clint Capella just got over there, so I don't know if he'll be healthy enough to play, but I mean they so far back. What's the point trying to rush him back just to play a few games?
Yeah. But see, that's the thing that you're going to have with this conversation. You're probably right. You're probably right with just handling the season because you're going to have teams that, like I said, they don't have no business trying to play right now.
No.
But since they are in the NBA, they have, their say. They have their say in it. They feel like, okay, well, since we have a say, you know what, we do have players that want to get back and play, so you know what, we should play. Like, no, like, you had a chance, you had all these games to be ready to make the playoffs or to be in playoff contention. Where you are is where you are. The Wizards, if you really ask them right now about making the playoffs or, bringing the season back, they're going to say yes. And it makes sense why they would say yes. They want a chance to win the playoff, to get in the playoffs. That's simple. Now, that doesn't mean now, for us, we're thinking like, okay, why does that, like, you're 5 games out, why even do that? But to them, they've trained this long, they practice, they love the sport. They want to have a chance to win a championship, regardless if it's ranked the first team or the 18th. So when you ask those teams, now, obviously, since you asked the team that is a 9th seed so far, you're going to have to ask a team that has, like, all the way at the bottom. So now you have players who are not even thinking about the playoff scenario. They just want to play just to play. Which isn't right.
Yeah.
It's going to affect everything moving forward for the sport, to me.
And, we talked about this before the show. What purpose does Golden State, with their chances of, their lottery chances to be at least be in the top 4 picks, and with this draft being pretty deep, you can snag a young guy, put him with that squad. You already got like enough experienced squad as it is. Once you get everybody back healthy and running, you stick that young guy in there. If he matures what his, draft position is, then you short gold. You ain't trying to win games against, Phoenix and Minnesota just to win games.
Mm-hmm.
You trying to look out for the long term. You got Klay Thompson trying to come back for a torn ACL. You got Steph Curry having injury issues this past season with his shooting hand. Draymond Green has missed games as well this year. Before you traded D'Angelo Russell, he had injuries as well, and now you got Andrew Wiggins in the fold. So, if you're going to stay, why risk that?
Yeah, that's definitely a good. That makes sense. It's just that when front offices and players, front offices and coaches they're gonna ask the players, how do you feel about this? What kind of impact do you have? What do you think about it? What do you want to do? And not thinking about all these other teams, they're gonna say, yeah. we want to play. So, but if you think about it unbiased and take just how you feel about out of scenario, how's it going to affect the NBA moving forward? That's something that every player, coach, head coach, assistant manager, front office, they need to go and ask themselves that. How does us playing again going to affect the NBA in the future? Because if you try to rush to get everything done now, you're rushing all of the things, not only for this season, but for next season. Right now, you're not necessarily affecting the draft right now, the draft lottery, because if you let the records stand where they are, you can do the draft lottery. You can do the draft, right? The season doesn't start up again. They don't start doing stuff in the off season before the NBA until maybe September.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a while to let things clear up and then taking the opportunity to say, okay, now we want to get situated. But I mean, the thing about this pandemic is I'm pretty sure you've seen it. I think we talked about it before. Some of these states that, are letting people kind of go out and open their places back up, their cases are not dropping.
No.
So just imagine that they open these places and they're saying, okay, well, yeah, we're going to, I think I just seen New York or somebody say that they're letting players go back and stuff for football and all that. But now the cases increase. Now we have to go back to social distance. Now we got to start over. So, and we can't rule that out right now. That's a huge possibility. We cannot rule that out. So, for basketball specifically, I know it's a hard pill to swallow, but the fact is, like I said, if you can't come to some kind of agreement to where the season is over by a specific month, then you have to consider letting the season go. It's just what it is. I mean, because right now, man, I remember, I think we were talking about it and we seen a couple of pictures. I think you sent me them trying to have the season all the way in August and September.
Yep.
And I'm like, so you're telling me you're going to have games on Sunday at the same time as NFL games or a different sport? How's that going to affect your money wise? And then even if you do that, what about next season? Are you saying that you're going to play until September and then take off 30 days and then get back to it? Like, now that's another scenario that players are going to have to figure out. So there's a lot of things that have to be discussed. And it's a hard conversation to have because you have to get your feelings out the way about how you feel about, playing at this moment. Chris Paul and them saying they want to play, but they have to really sit there and think, okay, how is this going to affect the sport overall in the future? And I think a lot of people are saying that too because of the money that is at risk if they don't play.
I mean, I see the players' point of view trying to get the rest of their money and stuff like that. And like you mentioned about them, starting like in July, that's kind of wild to me.
Yeah.
If I was them, like I said, call the season, get these guys in a couple weeks in training camp, try and get their bodies back in shape, whatever. And then by mid-June or maybe late June, wherever you're going to have your one site of doing NBA games, wherever it's like in, the Walt Disney Company site in Orlando, the World Sports Complex, or you go to Vegas or wherever you decide to go, have your games there, get the playoffs done. Because like you mentioned, you kind of bleed into NFL time in which we know that they're not going to miss no time. And I think the way they're gone about it this past offseason, the NFL is going to be right on schedule.
Yeah.
And, for the NBA, this is like, why are y'all going so late for? And, another thing I saw, they could start back on Christmas. Once the season ends, they start back on Christmas and go from there. That means the players lose some money right there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, is finishing the regular season that big a deal right now? It's like, if I was going to wrap up the season, do the playoffs, wrap up the season, give me as games done as you can, on top of, using the DC complex, use Orlando Magic Arena, use that practice facility that they ran summer games in, use that as well. Get done as quick as you can. Then after the season, do the NBA draft, do what you got to do with that. And after that, kind of plan out the season, see how things go, see how, like you mentioned, cases going up and all that stuff. Be aware of that. And another thing, D-Lock, if they continue with the season, we know these NBA players can't really stay still.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to have these guys confined to one place, these guys be trying to sneak in girls and stuff like that, or trying to sneak out and whatnot.
Yeah.
How are you going to control that? I mean, I know they're going to control that, but it's going to be real tough.
It's another problem you don't want to have.
That's another thing. That's another problem you don't want to have. That an outside person coming in just for a few hours of fun, and then that said player gets the virus from that outside individual.
Mm-hmm.
That's things you got to worry about. And that's things you got to worry about if you bring all 30 teams down there around Orlando.
I mean, just think about, just in general, how, I think we talked about before how beaches were closed, different things were closed, and people weren't staying home. These are just regular people now.
Yeah.
Imagine doing that with pro ball players. You're trying to tell them to do different things. It's not going to be as simple. It can cause a lot of problems if you are trying to tell them, go do this, go do that, having more control over them. That's not going to help anything. So, to me, like I said, the reason why they're trying to get this going is because it's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very hard to say, hey, let's just cut the rest of the season. I mean, obviously, you tell the Lakers or the Clippers that, the way that they're playing, I can tell you right now, and we both know that they definitely want the season to go because they want to keep playing because of where they are. They're one of the best teams right now. You got AD and LeBron on the same team right now for the first time. Everybody wants to see that. We all want to see if LeBron can take this team to a championship. So it's hard to say, okay, well, yeah, let's just, push this back or just end the season. It's another thing. Now, this is LeBron's second year in his contract.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have to figure out if this season is over. How do you go about next year? Is next year is really his third year? Or do you push, last year to second year? So it's a lot of stuff that have to be answered. It's a lot of things that just have to be answered. And most of the time, when you make a decision either way, those decisions or those questions have to be answered either way. So you have to make sure that the decision that you make does more help than harm. And like I said, it's great that a lot of people have the passion to come back and play. Definitely don't blame that at all. But at the same time, think about everything else that it's going to affect. Because, I mean, you have a player come back, let's say they're in the last year contract next year. How do you get them to, well, we did start the season again in October and July, and we didn't get a full off season this last year, so my performance was kind of affected, and my body's a little tired. It's a lot of things that could be said. Mm-hmm. A lot of things. So, I mean, not sometimes, but they have to be real with themselves and make the right decision. Make the right decision.
I don't know if I told you this or not, but here in Alabama, when the beaches started opening like that day, I think it was like May 1st, something like that. I knew friends of mine that went down there that day when the beach was open.
Mm-hmm.
Like drove 5 hours down to Orange Beach and went down there. Just like that. And that quick. And my thing is like, what's the rush trying to get down there just to go? We've been seeing, since everything kind of transpired here the past couple months, how certain people react to certain things. You got some people that talk big, saying they can last and stuff like that, and be hunkered down and stuff like that. But then you see, like 2 weeks later, these same people are out protesting, acting a fool, crying that they can't go sit down at Chili's. And, I understand that. I say this, I say two things here. For the league, I say for them, I say if you're going to start back, get back as soon as you can. Because after this, Last Dance documentary has gone away, there's nothing really else out there. I mean, I know NASCAR has gotten back up and rolling. I know the PJ will be starting here next month. But if you're the NBA, if you can somehow come back quickly as you can, you got the sports world by the grapefruits. Everybody be focused on you. The betting odds and stuff like that, money and stuff like that, will be off the roof. But if you decide to come back late July, well, that's when NFL training camp will get up and rolling.
Yeah.
And you don't want to compete with that.
Nah. I mean, it's not. It's about that, and it's also just the fact that, if you do that, what is going to happen next? Like, when next season has to come around, what are you going to do then? Are you just going to say, okay, well, we're just going to act like everything's on course? Like, or do you try to say, well, in order to give these guys that are free agents the time to make the decision on what team they want to make or decide, we're going to push the offseason back a month? Like, it's just a lot of stuff that is going to be effective at. You know how you make a decision and sometimes people don't think about what's going to happen after making that decision. Like they only think about the now.
Mm-hmm.
They don't think about, okay, well, after we made this decision, everything is going to be golden for a couple months or at this moment. But then a year go by, and because you made that decision a year ago, you're in a worse situation than you were before. So, it's sometimes, like I said, you got to really you have to take out the scenario. Okay, hey, look, we want the season to go, but let's be realistic and see how this is going to affect us a year, 2 to 5 years from now. How is it going to affect us? Because a decision that you make, and next thing you know, 2021 or 2022, the seasons are different than what they were before. Now you got all these different money issues, all this other stuff that could be hidden problems that we don't see right now.
And you brought a good point about money. I sent that video to you not too long ago about the Rays player. I forgot his name, but he was on Twitch saying, the MLB trying to come back, and they're already losing money as it is, and he was saying on that Twitch video, I'm losing money. They didn't want me to come back at a certain percentage. And then on top of that, I'm getting taxed as well. Mm-hmm. Lucky for him, he lives in Florida. But, I'm getting taxed and all this stuff. Then on top of all that, got the coronavirus going on, which we don't have an antidote in like that. People ain't really trying to curve the deal. I read a story, D-Lock, yesterday that a salon, I forgot where, a couple of the stylists had the coronavirus and potentially exposed about 80 to 90 women. I probably have to find that article. I'll send it to you, but I mean, that's what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah. Just think about that. So imagine if we go about sports the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I understand that shops are getting hair done is important and everything. I'm not knocking that. But I'm saying imagine if they open up these different sports and they open up all these different places where people can go and watch the games.
Yep.
You really think, I mean, everybody's talking about now, well, yeah, we're going to have the season without fans. That sounds all great right now. But do you really think after a month of not having any fans, they're going to continue to do that? There's no way.
No.
Because there's so much money that is going to be, they're not going to be getting if they do that. So it doesn't make any sense. So that's why, like, a lot of things it's one of those things that sounds good on paper until actions are there. And it's like, oh, man, like, this is what this is. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I would hate for something like this to happen. And it's one of those, this is not a scenario that you want to happen where once they make a decision, and like I said, we're talking on the show about 5 to 6 months. And we're like, well, because of something that they've done, way back in May and June, this is what they have to deal with because of that. We don't want to say that. So this decision, that's why I think we talked about it before. This decision is not going to be, 2 weeks and let's just make a decision and move forward. No, this is going to take some time. But the longer you take, the less helpful it is to bring the sport back. So it's probably, like I said, it's probably a better idea to just, hey, you know what? It was a hell of a season. We did see a lot of great things. But we may have to just shut this season down and get ready for next year.
Yeah.
That's simple.
I agree. And, whatever these guys decide to do, I hope the players, because like I said, we brought up a Tillman Fertitta. We kind of talked off the air. We got, owners like a Tillman Fertitta that are probably itching to get the league back up and running. And what we discussed off air, if people don't know about Tillman Fertitta, owner of the Houston Rockets, he's in the world of hurt.
Mm-hmm.
His businesses lines up with restaurant and, casinos, which needs the human body in those places. And that's how he made his fortune. And if he ain't making money like that, then he really hurting.
Big trouble.
I read that D-Log that he took out he got a loan for $280 million.
That's crazy.
So
who would approve of something like that?
they probably hoping on the back end he pay it back, but geez Louise.
I'm trying to tell you.
That's the stuff we kind of seeing with some of these owners around the leagues. Who can gut it out and stick it out? We know, like, if we go around all sports leagues, like a Jerry Jones, the Cronkies, James Dolan, the Robert Kraft, Daniel Snyder, and so forth. Those guys can survive, be all right. The Woody Johnson, Johnson and Johnson. Those guys can survive pretty well. But for these other owners, like a Tillman Fertitta that took in a big hit, the Lakers, granted how valuable and rich they are, their pockets don't run that deep compared to the other guy in Staples and Steve Ballmer. Mickey Arison, the owner of the Heat, owns the Carnival cruise line. we know his pockets are hurting. And he got like cruise ships out in the sea. His people stuck out there for 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
So
that's ridiculous.
I'll be mad as hell. I'll be stuck at sea like that.
Yeah, big time.
But
big time.
That's what we talking about, ladies and gentlemen. Like when you start hearing these sport leagues trying to start back as soon as possible, this is what the background noise is right here. These owners, they want to get back and rolling to make that paper, which I don't blame them. But like you said, D-Law, it's got to be for the safety for everybody.
Yeah, because right now, like I said, one decision is these are those big boy decisions, as they say. I think the phrase my mom used to say with my dad, you got to put your big boy pants on to make these kind of decisions.
Oh yeah,
because this is not something that you just say, okay, well, yeah, I'm gonna just do this right now and then deal with the end result. Nah, you get that end result, you got a lot of people that you're gonna have to deal with. A lot of people. And we know that the NBA is a players' league. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
So you make the wrong decision here, that can change, or you can have a lot of backlash. So it's gonna be interesting, big time. Very big time.
Yeah. And on that note, we'll leave it at that. I'm pretty sure next week we'll get more news and see, what the plan of action is, because certain states are allowing pro sport teams back into facilities. Here in Alabama, they on June 8th they are allowing high school sports to get back up and rolling. So a lot of things kind of turning at the moment here. So the month in June is going to be like a very key month and how things go and operate.
You know it.
But before we get out here, ladies, yeah, I agree. And before we get out here, ladies and gentlemen, we do have to do our RIP to Eddie Sutton, former coach of Oklahoma State, and also coached the University of San Francisco as well. Was an assistant, I think in Kentucky as well. So a long coaching career for him. He died here recently. So RIP to him.
Big time.
So, a lot of sad deaths and stuff like that going on this past week. But, that's kind of outside basketball, but a lot of stuff going on. So, I hate to end that note, ladies and gentlemen, but, we got to put that out there for y'all. D-Lock, how can the people find you on social media?
You guys can definitely find me at Black-813. Black word dash and numbers 813. Definitely find me there on Twitter and Instagram. I'm also on YouTube. Bring my YouTube channel back, posting more. So there'll be a lot of different things that will be discussed there as well. Let them know where they can reach you at on social media.
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, The Crooks Process. I know I've been promising a couple videos, but when you get married, come a little less than a month from now, other things take priority. So, once I'll get those episodes up as soon as I can, and y'all check them out. I'll send the feed out through there. Also, catch me on Twitter, Spawn42. I'll push that feed out as well when those episodes drop. And, next week, hopefully we get some news about something with basketball. But if not, we'll be kind of struggling.
Yeah, getting more information. But knowing the NBA, there will be some other thing suggested.
Yeah.
Some other way to get this situated. So we will have more information on that.
But that's been our show, ladies and gentlemen. like D-Lock said in the beginning of the show, stay safe out there. Watch yourself. This thing hasn't really been curved yet, so be aware of your surroundings and, just kind of do your precautions as best you can. But until next time, peace, ladies and gentlemen.
Check y'all.
I was kind of surprised they did. Because, two things. I'm kind of surprised that he left Hoover. If you don't think about Hoover, they had excellent facilities. They take care of their coaches. They get best athletes around that area. They know consistently win. And the brothers was like, he started to come up here. I said, I actually hired like me. That's great. All right, well, it's not really shocking because they had before the other coach was on. They had the previous coach before he was like, he had a job for a while, so he was hired. But one of the reasons why he had his job, I don't know if you ever got Richard Hendricks, but he was top player in high school around that time. So he graduated in 05. Went down there. So that's probably one of the reasons why he got that job. Richard was going to be a guy that this, I worked hard, but after years later on, like the athlete he had was like 90 days when he had passion first on. Yeah, I told my cousin, and looking at his resume, when he started jumping through the 06 up to now, this is what he is a winner. Now, for my cousin, hey, at the church, I told him, like, hey, look, hit the ground running. But I don't know if you heard this, if you're in high school or whatever, or you heard this about in high school when you're growing up. But around here, especially in this area, they always say things. They got athletes walking around that hallway. And what I mean by that, like, yeah, the sports programs do well, they're okay, but they could be better because some of these coaches and some kids not to play sport. And, I don't know if you heard that kind of phrase before, but I was with my cousin, I was trying to tell him, it was like, with the new coach in and this squad, and some of these kids will see that because they probably have never been encouraged to go out to basketball because the other coach for the past few years had his system and his type of players and so forth from this squad on up to high school. You get fresh set of eyes in, God knows what's going to happen. So I'm trying to be that. Oh yeah, I was trying to be in his head. So I'm trying to get work with him. I'm about 6'2". He's about that height right now. So he's be a junior this upcoming year. So the guard, he's been mostly like a point guard for all his life. So you got a point guard at 6'2". Comes in his own. So hopefully we'll see how things go. Yeah, I agree with you. Besides him coming up here, that was like Coach got hired at the city next season, like 15 minutes away. Like, that's not like I want to tackle like I like seeing these black coaches getting these jobs. Like you mentioned the first process back in March. Like my black head coaches won state titles this past year. Doesn't happen now. I think that's are some of these guys that the success of this program. One of these guys state championship or whatnot, but he's taking out a high school position. Meanwhile, you got Bucky McMillan, who was coaching Mountain Group, you know, all that stuff. One state power for the North stuff. But he is a head coaching job at Stanford. So I was like, well, if you create resumes, they kind of step beside the same time, but you know, what makes this guy